All right, all right, all right. Happy Friday, everybody. Excited about our call today. Thanks so much for jumping on. It's great to see some familiar and unfamiliar faces from all over the country joining us today. First and foremost, welcome to Clear Channel. We do this every Friday. Obviously, today is a little different time because my friend C-Roc is joining us. So we had to move the time around a little bit. But first and foremost, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please open up your cell phone. I know you used it this morning. I know you probably jumped on YouTube already. Type in KLEAR channel. So please subscribe. We got a ton of great entrepreneurs coming on, a ton of great leaders. And let me tell you, today is going to be one of our best. I can guarantee that. So first of all, C-Roc, thanks so much for taking the time to share your wealth of knowledge with our organization.
Ken, man, thank you. Cause it means the world to me to be able to do this. And the fact that people wanted to hear my voice, it's truly an honor. And I just want to express gratitude to you and everybody that showed up today.
Awesome. Awesome. Let me tell them, you want to share a little bit of your background? Or you want me to give your bio? What do you think?
You can open it up a little bit and then yeah.
Okay. So I'll tell you guys about C-Roc. So he's a co-founder of the innovative tech platform called Blueprinted. He's a powerhouse behind the What Are You Made Of podcast. He's a best-selling author of Rocket Fuel converts setbacks and becoming unstoppable. He's a performance coach. He's an author, a dynamic public speaker. I've heard him speak a ton of times, and he's a tech visionary, thought leader. And listen, he's been featured in Yahoo Finance for top business leaders to follow in 2020, top mortgage professionals. I know you've been in business with some of the biggest names in the mortgage industry. And listen, obviously he's a family man as well, lives in Maryland with his wife Jennifer and his two children. So C-Roc, hopefully that did you justice, but
yeah,
thanks so much, man.
Thank you. Hey guys, by the way, like when people talk about you or you have the opportunity somebody to introduce you, let them do it, man. And receive it, man. Just like so many people are so trying to be humble and man, take that in. The work that I put in, I earned that shit. Excuse my language. I don't know if I apologize. My mouth's a little bit off.
You're good.
But like I worked my ass off and had so many sleepless nights and stress, which I learned not to do anymore. Like I figured out the formula for that. But like look, man, no hair. Like I earned that stuff, man. So I want to encourage all of you to step into who you want to be and let people give you stuff, dude, and just accept it. It's a good thing. So thanks, Ken. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, appreciate you too. So tell us a little bit about life. Tell us about growing up, family life, maybe kind of introduce us to your career. Tell us about life growing up.
Yeah, look, I could have had it worse. It wasn't the best, but I can tell you this, that if you would have saw the situation that I grew up in, the abuse, the brokenness, the drug abuse, the anxiety, depression that went on in my family, suicide, conflict, you would be blown away the fact that I got to where I am so far today. And I say so far because I'm on a mission. I noticed something about my family that when they were drinking, doing drugs, like, excessively drinking, I don't, having a drink here is not a problem and I don't judge anybody, but I noticed all the stuff that they were going through. They would always share a story of why they were doing it. They would tell people like, this is, man, I got to drink because my parents drank, or I had conflict when I was a kid. So I drank, and all these different reasons and stories. And then they would live out the story that they were telling themselves and other people. And it was all BS. And as a kid, for some reason, I just saw that. I knew that they were telling a lie. Actually, they were telling the truth for what they believed in, what their reality was, but they were living that out. So I would call them out on it. And as a kid, it took a lot of courage, because let me tell you something, when you call people out on something that they believe in, a lot of times they resent you, even if you're right. And so I had to take that chance because, as a young kid, I realized that, I don't want people in my life that are going to steal from me, take my dreams from me, take my energy, my vibe, lead me in the wrong way. So if they didn't like what I was telling them and they didn't want to be a part of my life, that was a good thing. They were self-selecting out of my life. But what it did for me too, Ken, and the rest of you, I had to decide at that moment, though, to tell the story of why I was going to be successful. I couldn't do the same thing that they were doing if I was calling them out on it. So I chose at a young age to start telling myself, that you're going to be successful, man. You're going to be a badass. You're going to be, you're going to lead people. You're going to inspire. My mom put that into me as a young kid when I was about 3 or 4. I remember her telling me that. And so, all my life, I've just gone after it and kept up leveling and knowing that, I got to tell myself the story. I got to tell myself the story and then live that out. And so that's just a quick background. I mean, I go into detail in my book, Rocket Fuel, if anybody wants to see the details of that brokenness that I was around, but I don't really want to get into all that today because we're here to talk about firing you up and making you unstoppable.
Yeah, exactly. And tell us about that. Tell us about the book and how you become unstoppable.
So I've been in sales since 1998. I was in home sales for 9 years. I was going into houses. I don't know if you guys know RainSoft. Anybody here heard of RainSoft before? It's a water treatment system.
Okay.
We would go around and test people's water in their house, find out if there was anything wrong, and then show them. We had a little miniature water conditioner thing. We'd hook it up to their sink and then show them the difference in the water. We would do a demonstration, and I would do that over and over and over again. I would drive 1 hour and a half one way and back just to one house. Sometimes I would get there and it would be a single wide trailer, and I'm selling a $5,000 to $7,000 water treatment system, and thinking to myself, like, this trailer is not even worth $5,000 to $7,000. And I would have to fight through that mental game, right? Like, but then those people sometimes would bring out a bag of cash. Where they got it, I don't know. That's not my business. But they would bring out a bag of cash to buy the water treatment if I kept my mind right sometimes. And so I had to not prejudge, and I had to figure out all these things in sales that we need to go through. And for 9 years, I did that. And then I got into the mortgage business and real estate as a loan officer, real estate agent, and all that. And I just started thinking to myself, like, I got to play bigger games. Like, I have something inside of me, and there was something in, like, an energy, a potential. I just felt it. And I'm sure some of you feel it too sometimes. Like, we all have this thing inside of us, this potential that's built inside of us. And we just don't know the answers all the time. We don't know the how. We don't know the vision. We don't know what's going to end up because we're not believing in the fact of visualization. We have people around us in our environment that are bringing us down, or we allow to bring us down. I like to say it that way because they can't bring you down unless you allow them to. We got all these things, these invalidations from other people around us when we want to dream big, and we allow all that to happen. And I had that too. I just remember wanting to be great when I was a kid. And then for some reason, from my college years into my early 30s, I allowed the environment that I surrounded myself with to cage me up. And I went through a dark time in about 2017, actually. My mortgage business started to crumble because I didn't do things the right way as far as building culture. And I broke down in front of my wife in the kitchen after we had lost over $1 million. Some employees were leaving. The owner of this company that we worked for at that time was taking money that he shouldn't, and it was coming from us. I found out about it. And I, at that time, identified myself as a mortgage professional, division manager. That was my identity, which, if you're taking notes today, you want to write that down. You should never identify with what you do. You're not that. That's just a vehicle. You should be who you want to be. Whoever you decide to be in your head, I don't care if it's Superman, the Hulk, Wonder Woman, it doesn't matter. Like, you be who you want to be. And then you do whatever you do. The vehicle is just your profession. What you guys do every day, that's not who you are. I know sometimes sales leaders will tell you, like, this is who you are. No, dude, you are who you decide to be. You just have this vehicle. So I realized this, that moment that I was identifying as a mortgage professional, mortgage manager, division manager, all this. And when that came crumbling down, I was lost. And I told my wife that moment, I had 22 employees and their families on my shoulders at that moment because they didn't have pay getting ready to come in, and I had to figure that out very quickly. I told my wife I will never, ever put myself in that position again. I will never be in a situation again. I will do whatever it takes to make sure. And at that moment, I made a decision, and that's when my superhero came out. And I say superhero because my last name's Ciorrocco. Most people can't pronounce it. My friends started calling me C-Roc. I said, you know what? From now on, I'm C-Roc. And C-Roc is a bad dude in a good way, right? He is unstoppable. And from this point forward, he's going to do a lot of things, but he's not going to be identified by what he does. He's going to be identified through a mission. And that mission is all people are unstoppable to live in the life of their dreams. So everything I do, and again, writing notes down, write that down, create a mission for yourself. All people are whatever lights you up. And when I decided to do that, everything changed. And I didn't care about what people thought. I didn't care about waiting for validation from people. I just went on that mission, and anybody that got in my way, I confronted them, or I got them out of my life, because I was on this mission of becoming great. And Ken, one last thing I'll say is that I decided at that moment that I needed to get known because I was struggling so hard in my local market to get known for sales in real estate. And I was doing these little events in my area, and 5 people would show up and 3 people would show up and then 50 people sometimes and then 1. And I was just like, this is ridiculous. I'm trying too hard for something so small. I decided at that moment that I needed to get known for what I do and who I am on a grander scale. And I started thinking the region, Mid-Atlantic region. And then I started thinking, well, you know what? If I'm doing that, I might as well go to the nation. And then if I'm going to do that, I might as well go global. And by the way, I had no idea how I was going to do that. But I was thinking to myself, if I'm going to do big, I might as well go to biggest. Now, you guys have seen the news probably recently. They're talking about aliens. Has anybody seen that? Okay, I don't know if there's aliens. I think there is, because based on what they're saying. But if there's aliens, I decided at that moment, if there's aliens, I want the aliens to know what my mission is. And so I made a decision. Everything in your life is based and formed and shaped by decisions. I made a decision to get known globally by aliens if there's aliens, and everything changed after that. So that's the journey where it started, where I am now. And based on that, from then till now, 2017, 18 till now, I've accomplished more in that period of time than I've had my whole life.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You know, it's interesting when you said that moment with in the kitchen, I actually had a very similar moment. And I don't know if you've heard it, but my wife said to me a few years back when my business wasn't in a very good spot, we were just talking and she comes up to me and she says, hey, are you going to do what you need to do and rebuild this business? Or are you going to tell the boys, because I have 2 boys, little boys, are you going to tell the boys about the life they could have had? Because I'm not. And with tears in my eyes, I looked at her and I gave her a hug and I said, babe, I got it. I got it. And in the last 3 to 4 years of my organization and our career, we've hit some milestones we've never hit in the first 17 years.
Decision.
So it's very interesting.
Notice that. Decision. Write that word down too. I'll tell you to take a lot of notes, by the way, because if you write down things, it gets ingrained in you. But decision. Everything is shaped by the decisions we make. And most of the time, our lives are shaped. This is very important. Most of the time, our lives are shaped by the decisions we make after a failure or a letdown or somebody discouraging you or things not going as expected. And most of the time, those decisions are, I'm not good enough. I quit. This isn't going to work. I don't know what I'm doing. All these decisions. Now, the best thing to do is to go back and revisit those moments in your life, sit down in a quiet place, go back and think about those events and the decisions you made after that and switch those decisions. Because those decisions are defining you who you are now. And some of you, I see you got a lot of young faces in here. Some of you are a little more seasoned. I'll say seasoned instead. and the thing is that we all need to pay attention to this. When you start making the right decisions, through the mission, filtering through your mission that you decide, which minds all people are unstoppable to live in the life of the dreams. People start coming into your environment, opportunities start coming to your environment, and you don't have to grind for it. It's the craziest thing. I'm experiencing this right now, by the way. Like hardcore, man. People are coming to my life.
Me too.
Yeah. And so it's because of alignment and decisions that I made.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, the way we met, right, through Barb, a good friend of mine, and as we get on these calls together, and I'm learning about not just the industry I'm in, and the biggest thing I've taken away by being around people like you is to think bigger. If you're gonna think, 10x it. Think much bigger, get more aggressive. We can accomplish more. We have more in us that we can do, and it's a matter of to your point, making the right decisions, getting the right people around you, and setting the pace. So tell us about the rocket fuel idea. I've heard you talk about that on a few different calls we've been on, but tell us about your book and rocket fuel and how that works.
Do you guys know Grant Cardone by chance? So I listened to Grant. I guess I read the 10X rule back in 17 when I was going through all that. And when I was reading that book, I started thinking to myself like, oh, this is normal. Because he's a maniac, right? And I'm a maniac. And I think I'm a little bit more maniac than he is, actually. But we haven't discovered that. No, a lot of people haven't discovered that yet. But I started reading the 10X rule and I was like, holy cow, like this is okay. Like the people that are trying to cage me in and discourage me and invalidate me, they're just talking about themselves. They're not talking about me. They're the crazy ones. I'm not crazy. That gave me validation that I needed at that time, which none of you need validation. Sometimes you just have to realize it. To be the animal that I am. And I just unleashed. And so at that moment, I started diving into Grant's content, being in his ecosystem, paying attention to other people that he turned me on to, like shout out to Richie Dolan. He's a performance coach for NBA teams, LeBron James, the Miami Heat, works with Mike Tyson. I hired him to be my coach and mentor. Brandon Dawson, who works with Grant Cardone Ventures, just started paying attention and basically immersing myself in their world, in their content. Before you know it, I started talking like them in my own personalized way. And I started realizing Grant's talked about converting a lot. Convert. And I'm like, sheesh, that's interesting. So I started to realize that I look back in my life that everything that happened, now think about this in your life, everything that happened to you when you decided to do something or accomplish something, if you could take everything that would stop you or slow you down, if you were a normal person, none of you are normal here, by the way, but a normal person, anything that would stop or slow down a normal person. And by the way, after I tell you this rocket fuel law, this is a law. You cannot be normal anymore because you know this information, what I'm about to tell you. But if you could take everything that would stop or slow you down or discourage you, instead of putting it in your trunk, where most people keep that stuff, all that toxic stuff, they keep it in their trunk. And that's where it weighs you down and slows you down. I know some of you have seen Hoopty. You guys remember Hoopties, like old beat up, old long ass Capri Classics, I think they're called, or Chevy Capris. And they had the weight in the back, and it would weigh it down, and it would ride the tires. And the car could not go as fast as it possibly could go because it's slowed down by that. Or it would pop the tires eventually because it was weight so much, and it would stop them. Same thing with us. If you store toxicity in your trunk, you're going to slow down. You're going to be stopped. So instead of doing that, you store it in your tank instead of your trunk, your fuel tank. And if you can do that, then you are able to convert that into rocket fuel and become unstoppable. Now, convert means use it as motivation, inspiration, training, like all that stuff. I look back in my life and I was realizing the reason I kept advancing in my life is because I was storing it in my tank. And I said, you know what, this is a law because it works and it's got to be called something powerful. So I made it the rocket fuel law. And so I wrote this book to tell about the stories of all those incidents like that. And then my mentorship that I went through during that dark time. Grant decided to write the forward. I got that. I committed to that ahead of time before he even knew about it. And somehow I made that happen. There's a story behind that as well. But I will tell you one other thing with this. Once you know this law, you guys just heard it, and you can watch the replay if you need to hear it again. Once you know this law, your life will never be the same, because now you have, remember the decision, everything's a decision. Now you have the decision to listen to the law or not. And a law is a law because it's a law. I'm a simple guy. And so if you don't listen to it, it's still going to be a law. So now your life is never the same because you can't be stopped if you just follow the law. It's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. And by the way, Ken, when you're going through dark times, when you're going through adversity, you're going through, you're in really close proximity to a setback, there's hardly any, if any, light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes you can't see your way out of it and it seems like it's final. But let me tell you something. Every single one of you on here has survived everything you've ever been through. It's not final until it's final. And so the other thing I always talk about, my saying is thrust is a must. When you're going through hell, Winston Churchill said to keep going. Just keep going. I say keep going too, but that's not good enough for me. Because when you're in hell, it's hot. It's burning. It doesn't feel good when you're in dark times. I say thrust is a must. You got to move forward fast. And so that's all tied together. And once you figure this stuff out, then you can start experiencing it. And the best part about this all, guys, the best part about this is if you can learn to suffer well, when things aren't going the way you expect them to, things are bad, like peer bad. It's not always bad, it's growth, but peer bad, peer's dark. If you can learn to be happy and joyful and suffer well, imagine your life then. So one thing I'll tell you a story yesterday, I was talking to a former executive for Warner Brothers. I have this thing that came in my mind. Now, by the way, I don't know where this stuff comes from sometimes, but I just take it and run with it. I don't argue with it. And it came into me and it said something about, dude, you got to be in TV and movies. Like you belong in TV and movies, acting. You're a star. This is something that's coming to me. And I can't, I know some people say, yeah, come on, man. No, this it just did. And, or you're an executive producer, maybe both. There's something there. You got to explore it. So I'm on Clubhouse. And then when I get that in my head, now I'm exploring it. My attention units are on what I was thinking about. Right. And now I see Brian Rader. I meet Larry Namer, who started the E channel. I'm starting to meet people that I would never met before. And they just start appearing in my life. Some people call it magic. Some people call it God. Some people call it law of attraction. It is real if you believe it's real. These people start coming into my life. They're telling me, look, if you got a show idea for a show, here's how you do it. Here's what to stay away from. Here's what you're going to need to make it a hit show that somebody will buy. I'm getting this information now. I don't know where it's coming from, but the guy told me yesterday, he said, listen, since COVID, prior to COVID, it was a 1% chance for your show to be purchased or picked up. So every 100 shows pitched, one would get picked up. After COVID, it moved to 0.25%. So for every 400 shows, one show would get picked up. Most people would turn and run and get discouraged for that. To me, that was the language that I was looking for, because I know I don't quit. And I know that thing came to me for some reason because it's real. Thoughts are real, thoughts are real, by the way. Thoughts are real. And all you got to do is push it into the universe and act on it, and it becomes real. But that came to me for a reason. What he's telling me, this data, is what I look at. It's two ways to look at it. One way to look at it is like, man, I don't have a chance. And you just quit on a dream and you leave. Or you can look at it as, okay, 0.25%, that's great because most people are going to stop. I'm not stopping, so I'm going to win and I'm going to get it. You see the difference there? So the rocket fuel law says, look, I'm going to keep going. Anything I'm unstoppable. There's no discussion there. I'm certain I'm unstoppable. I'm going to go forward with this. No matter what comes, I'm going to keep learning from it, gathering data. If I fail, I'm just going to keep gathering data, and I'm going to go back at it again with more data, more knowledge. And I'm going to keep doing that, and everybody else is going to stop. So that's a good thing for me. That 0.25 makes it easier for me to do what I need to do because less people in the way. Does that make sense? So think about if you could approach life like that, man. So I'm an expert on unstoppability, and these are some of the tools that I use. I'm sharing with you today.
That's awesome. See, right, you just defined my career. And what we do, right? So you talked about you went out and did face-to-face sales. So part of my career, similar to Barb, we did door-to-door, business to business, and I've diversified the organization into retail spaces. But there's a challenge to sales. There's a challenge to development. There's a challenge to growth. And to your point, unfortunately, I believe there's a quote: "Through your deepest wounds come your greatest opportunities." So when you get knocked down the hardest, that's the time to have grace. That's the time to think and really appreciate, hey, this is happening for me. This isn't happening to me. And what can I learn from it? And then I can, bounce back even higher. So
the other thing, Ken, and I love what you just said. Like when I'm going through things where it would appear that it's a dark time or there's setbacks, like right now, the mortgage industry, it's crazy. The rates shot up fast. I still have 30 some employees in a mortgage business that I have. And our business got cut in 65 to 70% like that. Now, I could be depressed. I could be like, oh no, what happens? I already predicted this. So I already had other flows set up, which everybody should always think about having other flows set up once they get their first flow set up. Your first income set up, commit to that, add other flows after that align with that first flow. I did that already. But what I did also is during these times, and it got tough, I started thinking to myself, well, look at all the stuff I have around me. Look at all my clubhouse friends. Look at all the opportunities that I have to talk to people. Look at my body. I have 2 legs, 2 feet. Like I have all my fingers and toes. I started paying attention to things that I have instead of things that were going wrong, apparently going wrong. And all of a sudden, man, I learned, this is how I learned to suffer well. And it's not really suffering at that point because you're like, man, I got it great. I can go out and get whatever I want. Like I can go start a job and start a business and go collect money from anybody that I provide value to. I just got to go find what that is. Like there's no doubt. So in this season, I had this thought process, and then all of a sudden I've been podcasting for 3 years. I had this database of 500 plus shows that I was on. Cause I leaned into it like 400 to 500 shows in the last 3 years, not my own show, other people's. I was interviewed. I took that database and I created a podcast agency out of it. And I'm like this wouldn't have came from that if I had the bad attitude. So I just this stuff happens to me. I get evangelistic about it. I want to share it because I want everybody to experience this. This is too fun.
I love it. I love it. And, recently you mentioned the idea of cause and effect, right? You talked about this, I think a week or two ago on a call that I was on with you. And I think this is a perfect example, but you explained how you're not the effect, you're the cause. Do you mind going into that a little bit and how you look at those things?
Yeah. So one of my core values, I have core values. It's an acronym, VITALS. One of the core values that I have is the T in VITALS is take 100% responsibility. That means that I take responsibility for everything. Now, I don't blame myself. I don't say I'm at fault, but I never blame anyone else. And I take full responsibility for everything that goes on in the world, in the universe, actually. Now, some of you might say, well, how could you do that? Like, how could you take, responsibility for what's going on in Russia and Ukraine, for example, or the Taiwan Chinese controversy, or how could you take responsibility for that? I decide to. That's how. And what happens is you start to expand your mind and your capabilities of what you're able to do because you decide to. Some of you will never do this because you just think it's wacky and it's out there until you just won't experience it then. And I'll just be the only one. And the people that decide to do this will be the only ones. And we'll continue to thrive and ride, and everybody else will say we're lucky. But you decide to take 100% responsibility. This puts you in a position to never blame anyone, to be in full control. Because to the degree you take responsibility in your life, you want to write this down. To the degree you take responsibility, you take control. And when you're in control, you're the puppet master instead of the puppet. We all have a decision to be the puppet or the puppet master. And I want to be the puppet master. Like, I want to be the one controlling, pulling the strings. I don't want somebody else pulling my strings. So to the degree you take responsibility, you take control. Well, what that means is you're deciding to be cause. C-A-U-S-E, cause versus effect. And I talked about this the other day, Ken, is that human beings want complicated. They want their answers to be complicated, or they're not real, or they're not going to work. Oh, there's no way that'll work. It's just too simple. But I got news for you. The simpler you keep it, the better off you are. And the answers are simple. You either decide to be cause or you decide to be effect. And when you're effect, you have no control. Somebody else is calling the shots and you're a victim. So, by the way, if this is how it works, man. If I go to a restaurant and they say there's no tables and they're booked, do I have reservations? Mr. Ciorrocco, do you have reservations? No, I don't, but my wife and I love to eat here and we just need a table for two. Okay, well, we're booked. If you don't have reserves, there's nothing, we can't help you. No, I get it. I understand. Most of the time people need reservations. I just was in the mood to eat here tonight. And I told my wife we're coming here and I really need help. Can you possibly because I have it in my mind that I'm controlling the situation. They're not going to tell me they don't have a table and I'm going to go with it. They're just trying to get it out of their way to stick with their reservations. I'm not okay with that. Now you can call it being a spoiled brat. You got to get your way, whatever. I call it being in control and being at cause. So, but I'm not a jerk to them. Listen, whatever you can do, please don't put me in a position to have my wife mad at me. Whatever we can do, I'll sit anywhere. You can
work together here.
Yeah. You can pull a table up over here. You can we'll sit at the bar. We'll sit outside, whatever you got to do. Mr. Ciorrocco, let me see what we can do. This is before you even tip them. I'm not even talking about slipping them a 20 or 100 or anything like that. I'm just talking about using your ability to be cause. So when you're selling something to someone, they may tell you that they don't want it. They may tell you all the reasons they're not interested. They may tell you that they don't have time for a demonstration or whatever you guys do. They may tell you all that, but you're the one that's in control. You're the one that's in control. Now you don't need pressure. I didn't pressure that lady to get me a table. I just told her what's going on. I told her the story and we get seated. Very rarely that doesn't work. And most of the time, I can't remember last time it didn't work. So anyway, cause and effect. Now here's 2 rules with cause and effect I want to share with you. Very important. Number 1, it is important to decide to be cause on all dynamics. What I mean by dynamics, the first thing you have to focus on is yourself. That's the first dynamic. You can't do anything else beyond yourself in this world and can't tell you till you take care of yourself and understand that you have to be cause first. There is no way to be cause in your relationships with your spouse, your kids, your employees, your coworkers, your friends, the country, animals, material, anything that's material in this world, spiritual, or even God. You cannot ever be cause until you can start with yourself. That's the first dynamic. You got to make the decision to be cause in the first dynamic. The second dynamic is relationships. All your relationships and with your kids. The third dynamic is groups of people. We're on a group of people right now. This is the third dynamic. I'm in control here, by the way. Ken's not, just so everybody knows. Because I decided to be. Ken, if he listened to me, Ken, if he listened to me on the talk the other day, would have decided to be cause as well. And we can both be cause, which is probably the case. You can have everybody being cause, and that's alignment, and that will make you go forward in multiples. When I talk about multiples, I'm talking about two people come together, it doesn't make two. Two people come together makes four. When people are all at cause together, okay? That's alignment. So the second dynamic, the third dynamics group, the fourth dynamic is all living, it's all mankind. The fifth dynamic is all living organisms, including people. And then it goes up from there all the way to God, right? So that's rule number one, be cause on all dynamics, but start with yourself. Rule number two, and by the way, never be effect. Never be effect. Never, let me repeat that. Never be effect. Number two, this is a very important one. Never be the effect of your own cause. Never be the effect of your own cause. Well, you say, C-Roc, how is that possible? Like if I cause something, aren't I going to be effective? The only time you're an effect of your own cause is when you do something that's non-survival, that's off your mission, that's in conflict with your mission, misaligned or destructive or what have you. When you make decisions like that, that creates you to be self-sabotaging and causing your own problems. Many of us have been gambling in the past, which I have gambled. I've drank before. I've partied too much. I got into drugs in college. Those are all decisions that made me effect of my own cause. Does that make sense? So that's rule number two. Never be the effect of your own cause. That causes you to be a victim, and it causes you to be in a situation of non-survival. So nobody's perfect, by the way. So when I say this, you might be like, well, I'm not going to be perfect, so why even try? We're striving for perfection. And the more closer you can get to perfection in this, the better life you'll have, the more flourishing and prospering you'll have, the more attraction you'll have. People want to be around you. People will be handing you money for, you don't even know what it's for. You'll find money. This isn't crazy stuff, guys. This is like, this works. I'm walking the other day, and I do these affirmations and I meditate and I pray but I'm walking the other day and I'm picking money up off the ground. I'm like, this never happens before. I'm doing these because I'm saying to myself, money is attracted, like it's attracted to me. It just comes to me. I don't know why, where it comes from. It's just attracted to me. My businesses are all doing better since I focused on this stuff. But money it's just on the ground. I found a $10 bill the other day, a $20 bill somewhere else. That stuff doesn't happen every day, but it's real. I believe it's real. So, and even if it's not, it's real to me.
Yeah. It's interesting because what I've noticed about you and others that I align with, you give, right? You pour into people with no expectation of what's coming back. But the more you give, and I've noticed in my career, the more I've given to people and poured into them, and whether it works out in our company or in their sales, what they're doing, like I want them to level up their life. And the more I've done that, to your point, it's interesting. Things have come back tenfold, and things have just fallen in my lap as far as opportunities.
Let me clarify something. So I don't give without expectation of return, but I don't expect return from the person I give to. Does that make sense? So the whole thing is a cycle. Everybody needs to understand this. When you push energy out, it goes around and it comes back to you. There's a law that says every action has an equal and opposite reaction. It's a cycle. So if I give to, if I give to Alexis and I say, Alexis, here, take this, I want to help you with this. I don't expect, like, it's not a transaction where I'm like accepting money from Alexis. I'm going to help her, right? Well, Alexis, and this is just an example, Alexis may not have the resources to provide back to me something, to give back to me, which is cool. I understand that, because guess what? There are people out there that have resources, and when they do, they help me, it comes back. It's real. You can't always see it with your eyes, but that doesn't mean it's not there. And so if you just keep flowing out energy, keep giving, keep filling up the pot, the resources, people that have the resources to do it will come back and give to you without expectation. So I do expect return. Okay. I do expect return because it has to, because I understand physics. I understand how it works. It's a cycle. Right. So I just wanted to clarify that, Ken.
Yeah. No. And you talked about essentially you're referencing laws of the universe, right? So, and how, like the gestation period, everything has a period of time where, they got to grow and they got to develop, and things don't just happen because you make move. No, it's going to take incubation period before things, take off. But yeah, awesome stuff, C-Roc. So So tell us, just on a off note, some of the you've accomplished a lot in the last 2-3 years. You mentioned the people that have come into your life, and some very influential people, some people that have kind of helped you business wise, and just really you've met and had a ton of fun with. You mentioned Grant's name earlier. Do you mind sharing that story about how you got him to sign off? Because Grant doesn't put his name on anyone's book, right? And that was kind of an interesting opportunity you got, and how you kind of went after it. I love people that call their shots.
Yeah. So I committed when I started writing the book. I said to my team, I said, listen, we're going to write a bestseller. I've never read a book before. I don't know how to do this, but look, we're going to write a bestseller. That's one commitment. So everything that we do is going to have to align with what I'm about to tell you. We're going to have to think, say, do, and the environment that we keep has to go in this direction. Best-selling book. And number two, Grant's going to write the forward for the book. And they're like, have you talked to him? I'm like, no. Does he know? No, he doesn't know. He's going to write the forward for the book. Does he do that? I don't know, but he's going to write mine. And I literally did this. It might even be recorded. I should see if I can find that recording of that meeting. So I went ahead and wrote the book. When I was getting close to being done, I reached out to Jared Glant, who became a friend of mine. And by the way, I immersed myself in their content. I invested in their products. I got my team invested in Cardone University, just like wanted to be around and support what their mission was and give, right? But I got in return because I learned a lot. So then I called Jared Glant, who I became friends with, and I said, well, let me take a step back. So I went to GrowthCon back in 2019 in Miami Marlins Stadium. 35,000 people, had no idea what I was getting into. I saw the speakers on the stage and I'm like, that's what I want to do. And if they can do it, I can do it. I know I can do it. So I made a commitment at that time that I was going to speak on that stage. 2 years later, by the way, I spoke on GrowthCon stage. And then the following year, last year, I spoke on GrowthCon stage, just so everybody knows. So it works. But I saw Jared Glant on stage and I didn't really know him. I went to an event at their office. I got to know him and Grant and all them while I was there. I said to Jared, hey man, I'd love to come down and play some golf. You play golf? He's like, yeah, I play golf. So I went down and we played 9 holes. And then him and his wife got together with my wife. When we went down there, we had dinner together. So I just worked on a relationship. Now, when I called him about the book, I said, Jared, do you mind if I give a quote from you from the back of my book? He said, yeah, no problem. I'm like, and by the way, I was trying to soften the blow. I definitely wanted his quote, but I was trying to soften it because I'm in a situation where I committed myself and my team that I was getting that forward written by Grant. So I'm called to call and I'm like, I don't want to make this awkward. Like if he says no or he can't do it, it's going to be awkward. Like, and I might jeopardize our relationship. I don't want that to happen, but hey man, you commit to something, you got to be willing to give some shit up, man. So you got to make room for something to come in. So whatever, I softened it up by asking him for the quote. He said, yeah. I said, what about Grant? You think he'll write the forward for the book? And I sat there and waited and he goes, I don't know if he does that, man. And if he did do it, he wouldn't just do it for anybody. And it definitely wouldn't be free. I'm like, well, dude, listen, I already committed to him writing this book. So you need to figure out the details because we got to make this happen. And he said, all right, I'll have to get back to you. So I waited and then he texted me and he said, I checked with Grant. He said, let's roll. No, he said, who's it for? Jared said, C-Roc. He said, let's roll. But he said, it's going to be $75,000. And I went through a 5-minute little bitch session with myself thinking, how the hell, what? I'm asking him for like 1 or 2 pages. Are you kidding me? Like I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars with their programs and this and that with my companies. Like, are you kidding me? I've sent them referrals. This is, by the way, this is being an effect, right? This is me being an effect.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no way. Like, what? I hate that guy. I went from being like a mentee to being like, man, I hate that guy. What a jerk. 5 minutes. And then I said to myself, this is important, the turning point. But what if I could do it? How could I get that money? Because I didn't want to spend my own 75 grand because I'm thinking to myself, like, I want to use somebody else's money. This is just a thought that came to me. So I said, how could I do this? So I went to my partners. Well, first I went to my wife and I said, Grant said it's going to be 75 grand. You believe that's like, I can't even believe it. But what if I did it? And she goes, look, you already made your mind up. It sounds like you made your mind up. Just go do it. So I had her validation, which again, don't seek validation from people. You don't need that, but it's important that your wife supports you, your husband supports you. So then I'm like, oh, and then I talked to my publisher and she's like, sounds like you already made your mind up. I'm like, all right, I made my mind up. Let's go. So I went to my partners and said, fellas, there's 3 of them. We grew up since we were very young. And I said, fellas, and we work in the mortgage business together. I said, Grant says 75 grand. I'm doing it with or without you. But if you do join me with this and you believe in me and support me with this, what we do in the future with tech companies, things like that, you're going to be a part of it. They all, and I went to them individually and all of them said, yes, let's roll. We believe in you. They all pitched in 75 grand divided by 4. What's that number? Anybody have it? 75, 35, 70, 17,000-ish?
18. Yeah, about 18.
Okay. 18,000, but it's a write-off. So that 75 turned into like 12,000. I don't know, give or take. So then I got it for 12,000 and I just got to take my boys along with me, which I was going to do anyway. Like literally, I'm not going to leave my homies behind. If I have success, I'm the type of guy that if they line with me and support me, I'm taking them with me. So then I told Jared, I texted him, I said, I might be crazy enough to just do this. And so I wrote that text to him and we wired the money to him. And I said, hey, the money's in the account. Tell Grant to get me that forward. And then Grant was doing Undercover Billionaire. When he came back, he wrote the forward. And then they were like, I was the talk of that office. So you see, besides the credibility of having somebody like Grant on your book, in that office, they were talking about it. And then they would talk about their clients about it. This dude just paid 75 grand for Grant to write a forward. Are you crazy? He's crazy. Then they would have this debate in their office. And I heard about this later. Is he crazy or is he smart? And they would have this debate. I'm the one that they're talking about, remember. Now, this is important because there's levels of omnipresence. And all of you should be trying to aim for omnipresence. Remember, I'm trying to get known globally and by aliens if there's aliens. One level of omnipresence, well, 3 levels, no omnipresence, like, right? Second level is everybody sees you everywhere on social media, talking about yourself, talking about your products, talking about what you do. You're everywhere. The highest level, though, of omnipresence is when other people are talking about you and you're not there. Other people are taking your book and putting it on their social media when you're not there. They're taking quotes from you because you talk so much. And eventually you have to have something smart to say if you talk enough. And they're taking quotes from you and they're putting it on their social media. And when you're not there in offices, they're talking about, is this guy crazy or is he a genius? That's omnipresence. And that's what I committed to and I got. And now I'm teaching other people to do that. So that's how it happened. Look, I didn't get return on investment directly from book sales. That's a bad investment. Absolutely bad investment. I sold thousands of copies before the book launch was a bestseller, but return on investment books, it's the indirect that happened from it. So that's the story.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And it's interesting. So we just had a national conference last week within our organization where a lot of the top performers came in, top reps, top partners in the business. And when you talked about you're in the crowd and you looked up on stage and you made the decision that I'm going to be on that stage. I'm going to be the one they're listening to. Again, very similar to my career. And I think a lot of people on this call, they envisioned that this past week. And I've had a lot of conversations in the last 24 to 48 hours about how I just get it. I think bigger now. I get why, because we staff, again, some of the team on the call staff Costco's and sell products for our clients like AT&T and Verizon and others. And where it goes from standing in a store to becoming an entrepreneur to running a market, running a massive organization that does millions of dollars. Sometimes it's hard to connect the dots. So
yeah, but by the way, everybody, if you had that thought, run with it and use that when you don't feel like getting up out of bed in the morning. Use that when things get tough. Use that when you have a setback. No, I got to keep going because I'm going to be on stage. I got to keep going because I'm going to be on stage. I got to keep going. Guys, I'm speaking at events now that are ridiculous. I was in Vegas for Todd Alt's event. I spoke on stage with, GrowthCon, Donald Trump and some other billionaires were on the stage. I spoke on that stage because I committed. I spoke on a Vegas stage with Alex Rodriguez, Damon John. Who else was there? A bunch of people there. Now, next October, this coming October, I'm going to Palm Desert, California, to a $17 million mansion where there's going to be 50 attendees, several speakers, billionaires, super successful people, called Think Billions event. And I got invited to this to be not just an attendee that cost 25 grand to go, mastermind and all this, but a speaker. But that didn't happen because it's lucky or I fell into it or I'm just good. No, I committed. I made a decision. And everything after that, I filtered towards that decision. So any of you can do it. You just have to decide. And I'm rooting for you.
I love it. Love it. Yeah, it's funny, right? You're lucky. You're lucky, C-Roc. So lucky, right? So lucky. Oh, man. No, I don't believe that one bit. So tell us this. Obviously, it's 11:45, and we thank you so much for your time, just to stay on time here. You have kids. Through your decisions, and I see this with mine, they think differently a little bit. They see things a little bit differently. Any lessons you're looking to pass on to the next generation in your family? Because you're truly changing the course.
Yeah,
what it sounds like.
My kids are hard-headed, which that means self-determined, right? Stubborn. And I can't argue with them for being that way because I encourage it, but it's a struggle. Truthfully, if I can be transparent with all of you here, it's a struggle for me because I know what it takes to be great and I want to share that with them. But you have to let your kids be. You got to let them go through the stuff because they're not going to listen to you all the time. And if you try to tell your kids all the time stuff, this is important for parents. You have rebellious teenagers at times. The reason they're rebellious is because you're trying to tell them what to do, trying to tell them to brush their teeth, try to tell them to brush their hair, get a haircut, make sure the room's clean, make sure their work's done. You're telling them all this stuff. And what you're doing is basically taking the ownership of their own body and their soul, and you're taking ownership of it. And human beings don't want to be owned. They want self-determinism. They want freedom. And when you try to own your kids this way, and by the way, this is a struggle for me. I'm telling you that I struggle with this and I'm working on it right now to fix it. You got to let them be because they're rebelling because they want to be on their own. They want to be free and they want to learn, and you got to let them make mistakes and guide them. And another thing, Ken, my kids don't get in trouble. They're not spoiled. They don't get in trouble. We have an agreement. If you do something wrong, you mess up, or something you think you did off, come to me and let's talk about it. You will never get in trouble with me, but we need to be able to talk about it, get it out of your chest, get it out of your mind, free yourself up. They call it repenting in church, right? Repent, it clears your subconscious mind. And then we can go forward. And I can tell you how to handle it, but you're never going to get in trouble. You're never going to be grounded with me because that's not going to solve anything. And then more that leads the kids to hiding things. And so that's the way we roll in our house. I'm struggling with the to be thing, letting them be, because I just know what it takes to be great. And I want to share it with them, but I can't do that. It's not right. So,
yeah. And I know in my family, my little one, Mason, he is exactly like me. He pushes the envelope, and my wife always looks at me and she goes, "That's your side of the family."
Yeah. Own it.
So we get it. Yeah. And listen, and to your point about that, how he feels and he is him, and he's going to run his race. He's going to do his thing. So listen, thank you so much for getting on today, C-Roc. You amazing stuff.
Thank you.
Amazing content. How can we, again, repay you? How can I repay? How can I serve you? How can we come through? Anything we can do from within our organization, anyone that's going to watch this on the YouTube channel. We're close to 1,000 subscribers now across our organization. Hopefully today with all these faces, and we can pass it on. And, our mission and my mission is to help change the world one leader at a time by providing amazing people like yourself on the YouTube channel. But how can we serve you? How can we pay the favor for the time?
Look, again, here to give and serve. We're doing a lot of things in tech. Blueprinted is a new tech platform. You guys can check it out. It's there to help you. It's going to blow up regardless. So I'm not asking you to do it. I'm just telling you that it's there for you. Blueprinted, BLOO printed, spelled a little differently, BLOO printed.com. You can check that out. It's basically a step-by-step process. It's a marketplace for step-by-step processes to achieve a goal. Instead of a course, it just tells you what to do. Gives you the exact steps. You can pull it into your calendar. We're adding experts every day that know how to do things. And then other than that, man, just follow me on Instagram, follow my content, and let me know what works and what resonates with you so that I can celebrate with your wins.
Awesome. Any final thoughts, C-Roc? And thank you so much again for joining us on this Friday.
Yeah, final thoughts. Don't settle for good. Be willing to give up good to go to great. Be willing to give up great to go to phenomenal, and be unstoppable to live in the life of your dreams.
Awesome. Thanks so much, C-Roc. And if you guys want to take your phones, your computers, anything off mute, appreciate it. Say thank you to C-Roc today. Thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Go get it. Let's go.
Thanks, man. You guys have an amazing Friday. Thanks so much again, C-Roc. Talk to you soon.